When I choose the word mindset, I'm groping for an English word for the Greek word phronema. Only a few of you know what I'm talking about. It's only used a few times. It's usually translated mind, like the mind of the flesh. Phronema te sarkos. It's a really unusual word. And the verb form phroneo, we don't have anything in English quite like this Greek word. Because if you translate it mind, it sounds so intellectual. And it isn't. If I were to create a word that would do it, it would be attitude set. Not mindset, but attitude set / emotion set / mindset. It's a set, an orientation on the world, but it isn't just the orientation of thinking about the world. It's responding to the world and feeling about the world and an attitude toward the world. So when I say biblical mindset and secular mindset, think broader than mind. A set of your whole person. The secular mindset is not necessarily a mindset that rules out God or denies the principle of the Bible as true. It's a mindset that begins with man, has man as the basic given reality in the universe. What's a given? What's there? Man is there. I'm here. That's the basic given of reality. All thinking starts with that given, and it moves out from there, from that assumption. My rights, my desires, my expectations are my starting point. What the secular mindset views as a problem is a problem because things in the world are not presently fitting with my starting point. My rights, my desires, and my expectations. Something's out of sync. That's a problem. So the way the secular mindset defines problem is that it's not fitting, it's not working with my starting point, my center. And successes in the world, things that make you glad, are things defined from the center, from the starting point. If it fits with my rights, if it fits with my desires, if it fits with my expectations, success. So the whole world and how we see it in successes and problems and good and bad and beautiful and ugly all starts from, orients around, defined by that. My rights, my expectations are the measure of all things. That's the basic secular mindset. It can be very religious. That's why I said it doesn't rule God out of account or the Bible, because you can use all of that as stuff to express that mindset. That mindset is the mindset every one of you and I and everybody else in the world were born with. We have it by nature. It is what Paul calls the mind of the flesh, Romans 8:6. Or he says this is the way the natural man thinks. Natural man, the way we're born, what we are by our first birth is this way. Every child is born this way. And we stay this way until we are born again. And fundamentally what happens in the new birth is that mindset is replaced by another. We have this mindset and remnants of it even as Christians, and it is so subtle and so common and so at home in us that we don't know we have it, and we don't realize we have it until it collides with another mindset, which it does on almost every page of the Bible. Unless you read the Bible with such glasses that you turn everything on its biblical head and see it as an expression of your secular mindset. So what is that other mindset, the biblical mindset? It's not simply that it includes God or that it says the Bible is true. The devil includes God and he knows the Bible is true. The biblical mindset begins with a radically different starting point. Namely, God and His rights and goals, as opposed to you and your rights and desires. It starts there, it centers there, it defines everything there. God and His rights as the Creator and His goals as the guider of all things is the center, the ground, the starting place, the goal. Everything is defined by Him. Everything is measured by Him. The biblical mindset sees as problems not what the world sees as problems. The problems that the biblical mindset sees in the world are so different. Things that don't fit with God's rights, God's purposes, God's worth, God's beauty. These are the problems. And successes in the world are things that fit with God's purposes, God's designs, God's rights. So different. So the question we need to ask is, what is the basic riddle of the universe? Is it to preserve man's rights and solve his problems, say the right of self-determination and the problem of suffering? Is that the main problem? Or is the basic riddle of the universe how an infinitely worthy God in complete freedom can display the full range of His perfections? What the Bible in Romans 9:23 calls the riches of His glory: holiness, power, wisdom, justice, wrath, goodness, truth, grace. Did Christ die for us or for God? And the answer is, if He is to have died for us, He must first have died for God. His death is for the righteousness of God, for the vindication of God. This, I think, is the most important paragraph in the Bible. If you were to ask me to vote. It's not my favorite. I've got others that are more precious to me. But if you ask me importance for your worship life, importance for you to get a handle on so that every service has this flavor, this is where I would point you. What created that problem? That's in this text, and we need to know it very badly. What created the problem that His righteousness needed to be shown, vindicated, upheld, cleared? And He says real clearly, verse 25, because in His divine forbearance He had passed over former sins. Now, what does that mean? So I want to show my righteousness in the crucifixion of my Son, because I have passed over so many sins. The passing over of sins has created a massive problem, which the world doesn't have a clue is a problem. It's not a problem to the world that God is kind at all. How many people you know who are not believers lose any sleep at all worrying that the sun came up on the righteous and the unrighteous this morning. That the rains fall on the just and the evil. That God passes over sins. For Paul, this was the biggest problem in the universe. The forgiveness of sins is the biggest problem in the universe for the Apostle Paul. It cost the highest price to deal with the problem. And rescuing you was not the first issue. It was the second issue. And if you get it backwards, everything goes askew in your worship services. And there'll be a flavor. Godly, deep, spiritual people will feel the difference. You don't want to go there. Let me give you an illustration of what I mean by passing over sins. David, you know what he did? He committed adultery with Bathsheba, and he had her husband killed. God sends Nathan the prophet to him. And here's the key sentence that Nathan delivers. Nathan says in 2 Samuel 12:9, "Why have you despised the word of the Lord?" And in another place, "Why have you despised the Lord?" David responds, verse 13 of 2 Samuel 12, "I have sinned against the Lord." To which Nathan responds, "The Lord has put away your sin. You shall not die." Just like that. Adultery, murder. The Lord has put away your sins. You shall not die. Now, right at this point, you might break into the world. They might start to get it here if you say, "No! No, 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 no. Not if I'm Uriah's dad. Not if I'm Bathsheba's mom. You can't, Nathan, you can't say that. Just let it go." Good night. No judge in the universe would say that, Nathan. This is wrong to just pass over that sin like that. You start to feel what Paul felt, that God has done this millions and millions of times. One time, a judge on the Hennepin County bench does this, and he's impeached. One time, and he's impeached. And God's done it millions of times, including thousands of them for you. And the world doesn't feel this problem. The world mainly orients on a God, if there is a God. He owes me. He owes me the sunrise. He owes me safe water. He owes me health. And the only time I'm getting serious about him is if he withholds it. And then I'll get in his face. And as long as things are going right, God's doing his job, and I don't need to think about him. How many times has he made the sun rise on billions of rebels who belong in hell?